As we head into 2021, I thought it might be interesting to some of my viewers to go over some of my favorite video games of the year 2020. The first game I'd like to talk about is Super Castlevania IV. This game came out long before I was even born, but it still holds up beautifully. I absolutely love the whipping action in this game. I've heard people talk about how the four-way whipping reduces the value of the game's items, but honestly, I really don't care because I just love this whipping so much. I had played Super Castlevania IV back in about 2011, and I enjoyed it then, but as I came back to it because of the Castlevania collection that I got this year, I've gained a new appreciation for just how good this game really is, and it's a shame that Konami doesn't make games anymore. The next game I'd like to talk about is called Inherit the Earth: Quest for the Orb. This is an old-school point-and-click adventure game with really good pixel art. This game is basically a cult classic amongst adventure games because it didn't sell very well, but there's still a pretty dedicated community surrounding it. In fact, one of the creators of the game went and formed his own company later on and bought the rights to the game so that he could keep working on it. He plans on making a sequel, but in the meantime, there's actually a really good series of webcomics that helps to flesh out the world that the game takes place in. I never expected to be so invested in this game that I've actually read all of the webcomics, and there have been some pretty interesting storylines. The next game I want to talk about is Star Wars Squadrons. This is basically a modern reboot of the old X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter games. Squadrons differs from the old games in many key areas, but it's obvious that the developers of this game really wanted to capture the old, approachable, but still deep space sim qualities that the old X-Wing games had. This game is clearly a passion project because it's not the kind of game that, sells big numbers, but it seems that in spite of all that, it's still been selling pretty well and is fairly popular. So here's hoping that in a few years, EA Motive will get the opportunity to make a full-fledged sequel that will improve everything that this base game has to offer. The next game I'd like to talk about from 2020 is Desperados III. This game is part of a revitalization of an old genre called real-time tactics, which is kind of like real-time strategy, except for you control just a small number of characters, and this game relies a whole lot on stealth. The developer Me has actually made another game in this genre already called Shadow Tactics: Blades of the Shogun, and I tried it because I got it for free, but I didn't really get into it. But when I tried Desperados 3, everything just clicked, the whole genre and what it was trying to be. And every single part of this game is basically perfect for what it's trying to do. The game uses mature 3D graphics that will age beautifully. The soundtrack is absolutely incredible, with some tracks that are worth listening to outside of the game. And the gameplay has a certain purity that I've really come to respect. Finally, my favorite game of 2020 is Doom Eternal. I really liked Doom 2016, and Doom Eternal does everything that game does and better. There are just so many little quality of life and extra details that Doom Eternal adds that makes it really hard to go back to just Doom 2016. I was surprised at how invested I was in the story. The story is over the top and silly, but at the same time it's also sincere. But obviously the real standout of Doom Eternal is its combat. It is just so satisfying to soar through arenas using the monkey bars and jump pads, pumping the hordes of hell full of hot lead. The astute observer might notice a trend amongst all of the games that I've chosen to discuss. Each of these games puts gameplay first. As I've matured as a gamer, I've discovered that I care less and less about big, sweeping narratives, and care more and more about whether or not the game is even fun to play. So there you have it, some of my favorite games of 2020. I hope you enjoyed this list, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about the games that I've picked. Thanks for watching.